what's your opinion on the importance of college degrees in hiring? And I have no idea what the Gong policy is one way or another.
I don't know what the Gong policy is one way or another as well. So I will share my policy, which is if it's not necessary for the role and they have the background and experience that you think can make them wildly successful in the role you're hiring for, I don't think I'd hesitate.
Yeah.
I don't think I would.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if that's also just back to the whole, diversity side of things. If, kind of just, trade schools and, I wonder if there's, it would be a reach, but kind of, something of high school programs. I'm going to a program in New York City tonight. It's called NPower. So it's a kind of pet charity. A lot of Wall Street CIOs, chief information officers. Therefore, there's going to be a lot of people that are tech companies and sales leaders that are there. What they do, they go to those kind of high school ranks, not necessarily promoting college, but saying, okay, how can we give you the right technical skills, cyber and otherwise, so that way you can get, for lack of better words, real jobs. And I'm wondering, on the technical side of things, I think, people have, not that they have forgotten about the college. To me, that's less important. I wonder on the sales side if that's something that could evolve too over time, which would be interesting. So anyway, we have a whole bunch of ways we can go reinvent the world in our next life.
I'm right there with you.
All right. So Lauren, Peter, thank you so much. For others that are watching along, feel free to comment or ask questions as well. Let's see, I'm losing track where I am here. Oh, what about so sales leaders maybe that you respect and why?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say that without calling out specific names, the people you typically respect are those sales leaders who
you can call it if you want. You can call it names. It's totally fine.
Okay.
Specific names, stories are all good. So I just leave it up to your judgment. But
yeah. Well, it's the people that bring their authentic selves to work every day. And I know, Randy, you were talking about that a little bit earlier as well. Whether it's letting them know, like when things are going on at home and like, hey, I'm having a little bit of a tough day. But when they're really leading from the front and showing who they are, those are the people I typically gravitate towards. So that's how I would in brief answer it for you.
All right. Awesome. And then different from that, what about how have you seen sales ops and kind of rev ops evolve over the years and the importance?
Absolutely. I think I'm really lucky because the sales ops and rev ops teams at Gong are just absolutely world class. And I don't think I knew what I was missing working with such world-class folks until I joined Gong. And so just a huge shout out to them for making our lives day in, day out easier. And so I think that, if I were to join another company or whatever it might be, like the importance of rev ops and sales ops and having a great strategic counterpart to help balance you out is just so mission critical nowadays. And it's been great to see even how our team has evolved over the last couple of years that I've been at Gong, where it's just a strategic powerhouse that just helps us see around corners and helps me and my teams execute more effectively. So it's been great to see that evolution.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned a little bit before, but it's kind of like, the old days sales ops, you have, get all this historical data, but just now it's amazing everything that's available to say, kind of where are we headed, what's going on, and all that, the data and the feedback and the advice and the coaching is just, I just find fascinating. Just
absolutely.
So cool.
And just the ability to help in real time, and something, of course, Gong helps us with as well, is measuring, what we're doing, is it effective? If we roll out new messaging or a new product line, working with those teams to say, hey, are we using this messaging? Is it effective? If not, what can we start tweaking? That of course coupled with our enablement teams. And that's something where in previous lives, we were just waiting for did the revenue come in or not to help answer those questions. Yeah. And so this new world is very much welcomed.
Yeah. Any favorite mentors that you've had over the years, and any specific advice you've received?
Well, I mentioned Matt Cameron a little bit earlier. So he's definitely one. And I think what he instilled in me so early on was just the love of creating process and making sure you follow your process too. And I think that was always just a big piece. The other big piece of best like advice that I still chuckle with is my very first manager at O-Power. I remember feeling like a little overwhelmed one day, and he looked at me and he was like, "Kid, you can always right your ship in 24 hours." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "No matter what the problem is, if you really, take away distractions and focus on something, you're probably gonna be able to write it or at least have a path forward within 24 hours." And so I think that's always something that I've really kept close to my heart, because especially with how crazy the last few years have been with the pandemic, going remote, going back to hybrid, things change quickly. And it's always, I love that reminder that you can always right your ship in 24 hours. Nothing's too big.
Yeah, totally not get too stressed out, especially these days. I was with a friend yesterday who's a sales leader at a company doing well, looking at another job, and it's so stressful and getting all worked up. I'm like, it's a great alternative. Like, you're good either way. Given so many other people that are just looking for jobs or have issues, like that is awesome problem. So like, stop whining about it and just enjoy it. So anyway,
Absolutely.
Lack of better words. What about any advice you would give your younger self?
It's almost what you just said. And it's also funny enough, one of Gong's operating principles, which is enjoy the ride. And that, it's, there's going to be crazy times and there's going to be wonderful times and hard times, and just take a step back and make sure that you spend the moments there to appreciate whatever lessons you're learning. So I think that's always a good reminder, especially when you have a 14-month-old banging on the wall behind you right now.
That's
I don't know
awesome.
if you can. I don't know.
No,
if
I
you
can't
can.
hear it all.
Okay.
Yeah, I got people in the kitchen over here making noise. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but
I can't. So I think we're in a good spot.
we're both good. At least we can both check in real time and make sure. And now, so even though you're in Nevada, then you've still been traveling on the road, I assume, correct?
We have, and it's just been so awesome to get back into the field and see our customers, break bread, have conversations in person, and even start, Gong is doing an incredible job on the marketing side of the house, spinning up events again. And so that has just been really awesome to see. So.
Yeah. I mean, and a lot of what you're doing is obviously it's consultative. So the relationship aspect side of that, especially taking over, current customers, it seems like generally speaking, not just Gong, but kind of the sales tech stack companies kind of grew up selling to marketing, ops, enablement, and now the kind of CRO has evolved as kind of the decision maker role. So has that been, I guess, a challenge or an opportunity kind of for your sales team to say, okay, let's kind of improve our relationship with this kind of new, I guess, could be same person that's been at the company you've not spoke to, or, the tenure these days of 17 months of CROs, they keep changing. So, making sure that you're building that relationship. Are you doing things there?
Absolutely. I think that it's an opportunity for us to go out and create those relationships, especially with our executives that we need to be with at this point. You also said something interesting about like the 17-month tenure. And that's something that we've seen starting to happen in the market, is movement amongst executives. And so, right, we need to be building these relationships with the CRO, but we need to be multi-threaded at the executive level as well.
Right.
And so that's been a keen focus for us, getting out into the field, multi-threading at the executive level, and just building those relationships. Because at the end of the day, as much we can do over Zoom, I still maybe, again, now I'm stealing your line. I'm old school.
That's all right. It's all good.
There's just so much magic that happens in person.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially, I guess, on the rep side too, where you have turnover and accounts, making sure that they're in there doing it. And, it's, for lack of better words, not that people get complacent, but, given a choice between, if I'm a rep, okay, I can, hang out at home and I can do my Zoom thing and that's acceptable, versus saying, okay, hey, I'm really going to get out there. I mean, that's also, it's a tough push. In today's world, you got to be careful, kind of how do you mandate? You can't push too much, but that's the way we all grew up. how do you handle with some of that behavioral things, which, 10 years ago, you just say, okay, we're even going to metric you on all this stuff.
Right. And you're right. It is tough, especially because some folks may have taken a job when travel wasn't mandated or wasn't even allowed. And
Right.
now that we're shifting expectations, you just have to be thoughtful with that, and very slowly move into that. I don't have a perfect answer for how to move from the mandate of not traveling to going back to an old way of mandating of traveling. We're just, like I mentioned, we're just slowly getting into it. And most of my team seems excited about it, but we haven't gone back to metricing or doing anything like that in terms of getting into the field. Have you seen that?
But it might be a good idea.
Well,
It's hard, right? You can't push like the way, at least, in my generation would do, and you probably had seen as well, but just, there's a lot of that you've got to be, kind of a lot more sensitive about. And you've got, I think, leaders, especially sales leaders, struggle with that. And you hope that you've got obviously the right culture, the right behaviors, and you hired right, and people want to do because the right things, and you can provide the right, balance and family and everything else. But at the end of the day, I mean, there's just basic stuff that you got to do to get out there. So
absolutely,
it's interesting. So maybe somewhat related. So you've had a catbird seat in sales. You're at arguably one of the better or best sales tech, sales tech stack, I guess, companies. So if you fast forward in the future, kind of 5-10 years, what do you think is going to change?
Ooh, that's a great question. That's actually hard to answer at Gong, and because I've never been at a company that releases product and innovates as quickly as Gong does. And so we have a lot of amazing things that we're starting to push through, whether it's like the Gong Collective or Gong Assist. But I don't know what are my counterparts that are just absolute geniuses on the product side are whipping up for the next 5 years.
Yes, I'm not talking. Sorry. Yes, I'm not. I don't want to have you disclose the Gong roadmap, but I just mean in general, right? So if you just take tech sales anywhere to say, what do you think? So like, obviously we wouldn't have 5 years ago, if you ever said, Randy, you're going to be doing Zooms, you're going to be doing a podcast. Yeah. You're going to know how to do, calendar invites. You're going to have Calendlies. I would say there's no way. Right. So and those are maybe more tactical things, but
yeah. I mean, I think we're going to see more automation come through. And I think that it's going to be a balance of more automation. But I do think the personal relationship piece is something that's also not going to go away. So hybrid work, hybrid selling, kind of what we're seeing like being evolved today, is something that I think will continue to be pushed into in the next 5 years. But Randy, I think if you had said I'm going to be doing a podcast 5 years ago, I could believe that, right?
You can now. I don't know that people knew me then. I don't know. So. Interesting to see. So, all right. Well, time flies when you are having fun. You've been a fantastic guest, so really appreciate it. For those that are watching, feel free to share. Tucker behind the scenes gets it posted on all the different social medias and sliced and diced everywhere. So, certainly a great PR piece, I think, for Gong and your customers and partners and anybody looking at what you do. And we left out the Alexander Group, so we still got a couple minutes. So. Okay, Alexander Group. So you'd mentioned you have some familiarity. And any story there? Sorry, I totally forgot.
Yeah, absolutely. They, I think it was actually the Alexander Group does a women's forum. Is that correct?
Yep.
And so it was Kelly Wright has spoken on it before, our president and COO. And so they're just a great Gong partner as well. And I know they're doing a lot of great information in the public. So awesome. I can't give as much of a 30-second clip as you did at the beginning, but I definitely have some awareness.
There you go. Yeah, and actually they've got a great exec event coming up in Dana Point. It's right before the BC Notre Dame.
That's right. Ryan Longfield, my CRO, I believe, will be attending.
Yeah,
as well.
So it's middle November. I'll be there. So anybody looking at that should definitely consider it. So now I'll go. We have our next guest was going to be Carl Eschenbach, but he had a unfortunate family situation come up. Carl, I think you've worked with, I would imagine he's, from what I hear, I know he's pretty hands-on, so I'm sure you worked with him some, longtime VMware exec, and it's Sequoia. So we're working on rescheduling him. And if not, the following week, we have Dan Campbell, who's not long time, but I guess above average for early EMC exec and then CRO at NCR. And we'll be landing another great CRO gig shortly. So anyway, so Annalies, thanks. Tucker behind the scenes, thanks. Anybody feel free to check out Alexander Group and also Sales Community. So with that, have a great rest of day and great rest of week.
Thank you, Randy.